بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. قال المؤلف رحمه الله تعالى في الباب 28 بعد 100 باب جواز الاستلقاء على القفاء ووضع إحدى الرجلين على الأخرى إذا لم يخف انكشاف العورة وجواز القعود متربعا ومحتبيا. عن عبد الله بن يزيد رضي الله عنه أنه رأى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم مستلقيا في المسجد واضعا إحدى رجليه على الأخرى متفق عليه. وعن جابر بن سمرة رضي الله عنه أنه قال كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا صلى الفجر تربع في مجلسه حتى تطلع الشمس حسناء. حديث صحيح رواه أبو داود وغيره بأسانيد الصحيحة. وعن ابن عمر رضي الله عنهما قال رأيت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بفناء الكعبة معتبيا بيديه هكذا، ووصف بيديه الاحتباء وهو القرفصاء، رواه البخاري. وعن قيلة بنت مخرمة رضي الله عنها قالت رأيت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وهو قاعد القرفصاء، فلما رأيت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم المتخشع في الجلسة أرعدت من الفرق، رواه أبو داود والترمذي. وعن الشديد بن سويد رضي الله عنه أنه قال مر بي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وأنا جالس هكذا وقد وضعت يدي اليسرى خلف ظهري واتكأت على ألية يدي، فقال أتقعد قعدة المغضوب عليهم، رواه أبو داود بإسناد صحيح. Chapter 128 of Riyadh as-Saliheen, and obviously chapter 128 is in Al-Kitab al-Rabi', the fourth section of the book, Kitab Adab al-Nawmi wal-Ittija'i wal-Qu'udi wal-Majlisi wal-Jalisi wal-Ru'ya. The etiquette, the manners of sleeping, of sitting, of laying, sitting in a circle, how you're allowed to sit, how you should sit, how you can and cannot sleep, so on and so forth. And also he speaks on the manners and the etiquette of dreams, seeing the dream, interpreting the dream, telling people about the dream, etc. So chapter 128 says Jawazul Istilqa'i, the permissibility of lying down, sleeping on one's back, placing your head on the ground and folding your legs. A man is allowed to lay down and to place his right leg over the left leg, as long as you feel confident and as long as, inshallah, your aura will not be exposed. Your aura is not exposed, you're allowed to lie like that, meaning in the presence of other people. In the presence of other people who aren't supposed to see your aura. So you're allowed to lay like that as long as you feel confident and safe that your aura will not be exposed. Also he says, وَجَوَازِ الْقُعُودِ مُتَرَبِّيًا وَمُحْتَبِيًا, and the permissibility of sitting like this. Person says, obviously the different ways of describing this type of sitting. Some people say crisscross applesauce. I never heard that one. That's a new one. Others refer to this sitting as pretzel, horse stand. What else? There's one more popular than that. It's politically incorrect. Indian style. Thank you. And subhanallah, not to go too far off the subject, but if you study the history of the indigenous people of this country, specifically those who are called the Delaware Indians, which was the name given to them, the Lenape. You study them, there's a reason why they would sit like this. There's a hikmah behind it with regards to sitting like this inside of the wickiup or the teepee. There's very, very, very interesting hikmah behind why they became infamous for sitting like this, hence Indian style. Al-Muhim, mutarabbi'an, in which you have 4. Alright, you're sitting like this, and also sitting upon your knees with your feet behind you as well. That both of those sittings are lawful. Alright, so this goes to show, before we get into the ahadith, is that Islam is a way of life and a way of death. It's a complete system. It isn't just a faith, it isn't just a religion, it is a complete system. And one of the biggest reasons behind the misunderstanding of Islam, intentional or unintentional, is comparing Islam to other faiths and other religions. and calling someone an extremist or a fundamentalist or this and that, because their faith only pertains to one day out of the week, and their faith only pertains to faith and the heart, me and God. That's it. But my faith, my religion tells me about warfare, and tells me about peace, and tells me about marriage and divorce, buying and selling, what jobs you can and cannot have. It's a complete system. And from that is how do you sit and how do you lay. And of course humans, they need to lay and they need to sit. People sit to talk, to discuss. Friends and foes sit. If you're not standing, you're sitting. If you're not sitting, you're lying or laying. So if there is a possibility in the human life, the human being's existence, for something to happen, then Islam has to speak about it. That's the rule. That's the formula. If it's possible to happen in the human's life, then Islam has given some guidance. A little or a lot. Explicit guidance or implicit. Specifically saying you can't wear that color. Haram. Or advising you what colors to wear. And to wear colors that men wear, avoid imitating a woman, etc., etc., etc. So Islam is going to give guidance explicitly or implicitly for everything that can and will happen to the human being and the human being's existence. And it shows you the superiority and the virtue of al-Islam over all other deens. لِيُظْهِرَهُ عَلَى الدِّينِ كُلِّهِ. Alright? So that's very important. Second of all, how you sit in a circle, how you sleep, that says a lot about you. It speaks volumes about you, your education, your culture, what type of person you are and what type of person you are not. Alright? Khairan inshallah ta'ala. And this hadith also goes to, or the chapter, before we get into the hadiths, is that a man is never supposed to expose his awrah to anyone unless that person is allowed to see his awrah. Primarily your wife. And if it's not your wife, then that which your right hand possesses. And if it's not that which your right hand possesses, then another male, same sex, or opposite sex, based off of necessity, such as medicine. You're wounded in your thigh, you got shot, you got stabbed. There's no male doctor. The female has to stitch you up and patch you up, make sure they have no infection. You have to take off your clothes. And they need to look at your private parts because the wound is in that area. Or you may have something wrong with your private part. You may have a rash or a burn. You may be wounded. You may have to go to a clinic. A person may suffer from sexually transmitted disease, whatever the case may be. And which you have to expose your awrah. And if it's not medical necessity, then the awrah is not to be exposed and not to be seen by anyone other than those who have been mentioned. Okay? A dead body, burying someone, something like that, which is darura, a necessity. And if it's not a necessity, the awrah is supposed to be protected. So this goes to show the danger of different types of sports and professional sports. And people ask, is it permissible for a Muslim to be a basketball player? Can I be a professional soccer player? Is it haram? So on and so forth. The game may not be haram, but what are you going to do in the locker room when it's normal to walk around naked? And if you cover yourself, then you're going to be looked down upon or made fun of. Maybe you can get away with it, maybe you can't. Your awrah's covered, but the people's awrah are what? Alright, and obviously we don't go too far with regards to the history of sports and the culture of jock and homosexuality, Greco-Roman. Well-known homosexuals and well-known lovers of boys, the Greeks and the Romans, is well established. And they are the founders of much of modern Western society, let alone of the culture of sports. And obviously things just don't die and go away. There's always a remnant. لِكُلِّ قَوْمٍ وَارِثٌ. All people have an heir. There's someone that's going to inherit their way. So we're not here to talk about that in detail. It's just food for thought. Mm-hmm. Is that if it's permissible to play basketball or football or tennis or whatever, but think about your awrah. And how Adam alayhi salatu wasalam and Hawa, they covered their awrah. They were ashamed and embarrassed. And their awrah became exposed after they ate from the tree. They disobeyed Allah. And how the shaitan wanted their awrah to be exposed. And the first caller to nakedness and nudism was Iblis, was shaitan. Alright? That's a very, very, very long discussion in itself. Al-Muhib, it's lawful to sit like that if you feel confident that your awrah won't be exposed. I.e., people back in the day didn't necessarily dress how we dress today. one of the most popular types of clothing was an izar and a rida, 2 pieces like Hajj and Umrah. And a person didn't always necessarily have something on under. So the concept of pants, trousers, let alone the concept of underwear and underpants, when did that come about? And when did that become a standard for everybody to wear underwear and to wear pants under their garments? So if a person is lying and sitting like that, it's a possibility that his odor would be exposed. And that's something which is very dangerous. And Islam wants to prevent the cancer from starting, not spreading. Starting. Preventing the cancer. Because once someone's odor is exposed, and you accidentally look at someone's odor, that vision, that image may not leave your mind. Let alone you intentionally look at people's odors. And that image, unfortunately, never leaves your mind. And you never bounce back from that initial trauma and shock. Hence, addiction to the internet. You were 12, you were 10, someone showed you something, you didn't know what it was, you didn't like it, but the image doesn't leave. And it has a permanent stain upon your brain, unfortunately. So Islam places a great deal of emphasis upon the awrah, and the awrah not being exposed incorrectly. So the first narration is reported by Abdullah bin Yazid radiallahu anhu, that he saw the Messenger of Allah mulstalqiyan. I saw the Messenger of Allah lying upon his back in the masjid, and one of his legs was upon the other leg. And this hadith is agreed upon, proving the permissibility of this type of posture, of laying like this. And if he saw the Prophet ﷺ doing it, then it was lawful. The hadith, ما أضيف إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من قول أو فعل أو تقرير أو وصف خلقي أو خلقي. Next narration is narrated by Jabir ibn Samurah radiallahu anhu. Whenever the Prophet ﷺ would offer Salat al-Fajr, تربع في مجلسه, he would sit and he would stay where he prayed. He would sit down and he would sit like this with his legs folded like this, حتى تطلع الشمس حسناء يعني مرتفعة, until sunrise, when it was the sun was up and above, duha, ishraq, so on and so forth. And this hadith, no, he says it's authentic and is reported by Imam Abu Dawood and others. Abdullah bin Umar radiallahu anhu reports, رأيت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بفناء الكعبة, I saw the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam bifina al-Kaaba, in the courtyard in front of the Kaaba, alright, muhtabiyan, not sitting with his legs folded across, but the other way, in which a person sits down. Okay? And this hadith is collected by Imam al-Bukhari. Tayyib. There are other narrations in the chapter, and the last of them is reported by Shadid ibn Suwaid radiyallahu anhu. One day the Prophet ﷺ, he passed by me, I was sitting like this, reclining upon my hand, reclining on my arm like this. And the Prophet ﷺ says, do you sit like those who earned Allah's wrath sit? Do you sit in that posture? Meaning that it was prohibited to sit in that manner. And this hadith is collected by Imam Abu Dawood rahimahullah ta'ala. And of course, these things show us فيه رد على من يفرق الدين بين اللب والخشوع. Those who say that the religion is peeling and flesh, the rind of the fruit, the skin of the orange and the fruit of the orange, and that you shouldn't pay attention and focus on the peelings and the rind of the orange. This, how you dress, the beard, kada, this, kada, oh, this haram. Don't worry about those things, but pay attention to the lub, the flesh of the fruit. Pay attention to the real serious things. This is going on in this country. These people are dying. Don't talk about this. Don't. And of course, that is an incorrect statement for so many different reasons. First and foremost is common sense. What good is the orange if it isn't protected by the rind, by the skin? What bugs and insects will get in and defile the orange or the lemon or the grapefruit, the citrus fruit? The egg without the shell is what? What good is it? It's going to be a mess. And anytime the egg is outside of the shell, or the fruit is, the orange or the grapefruit is peeled and sliced, it has to be in some type of what? Something plastic, something to cover it up. So if you don't pay attention to the outer, how can you protect the inner? And that's just basic common sense. And let alone the fact that the religion isn't to be just cherry picked. You pick and choose what you want to be important and what you want to be from the religion Quran.